Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first webinar of a series in 2025 that we're going to be holding. My name is Mike Chudy. I'm with Sustainment and glad you guys are here today. We're going to get a lot covered in a short amount of time, and we will make sure to have time for Q&A at the end. So let's get started. So the topic, why supply chain teams deserve better tools and how SRM delivers. We're excited to roll into this today and talk about the problem. So the problem is supply chain teams often rely on tools designed for other departments. And what does that create? So first of all, there's lost opportunities. And this is something that's very hard to quantify. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Inefficiency, easily more quantified, but hard to put an actual dollar amount to in many cases. And then of course, there's always the risk of errors. So today, maybe this is what attracted you guys with Spencer, our head of marketing's funny analogy, but trying to paint a fence with a wrench. You know, it always comes down to the tools that you use to do your job. And we want to look for tools that, don't take 12 more clicks to do the same function you were doing in a past role. We want to make sure those tools are helping actually create efficiencies so that you can get more work done. So we believe it's time for tools that support the hard work of supply chain teams to be built with their needs in mind. So today, this webinar is for you. If you want to be more efficient, but you bounce in and out of email, spreadsheets, or other platforms, I'm sure you've been thinking about some of this stuff, but if you've been felt, stuck or completely reactive in managing projects, never having enough time to stay, with it, if you aren't sure if there's a solution or process available or don't even know where to turn to ask questions, and if you're looking for an easier, more effective way to work with all the different teams that you collaborate with. So really quickly, some background on me. So Mike Chudy, I live in Austin, Texas, spent the better part of almost 20 years in manufacturing and industrial distribution. I did it in multiple functions, from sales to operations, leading teams that had to do with procurement, and then actually stood in your shoes where I was purchasing automation tools like ERP, WMS, CRM. I was looking for those tools that would help teams become more efficient, improve collaboration, because we all know communication internally is usually what bogs teams down. Then I got into consulting, where I was able to help early, mid-market, and even enterprise companies improve efficiencies, whether it was scaling in sales or improve operational efficiencies, and using technology to help do that. And most importantly, today, I'm super passionate about you and your space and trying to help you improve your efficiencies with automation. So today, let's talk a little bit about what we want to accomplish. So of course, I want to introduce SRM. It's the fastest growing category in the landscape of supply chain software. I want to make sure you understand what all the benefits are tied to SRM, and then highlight how it can help you in your job become more efficient and help you collaborate with your team. Okay, so I have my goals, but what can you hope to learn? So obviously we want to talk about the current tools that most people are using, how they fail the teams. What are the real benefits that you can get by adopting an SRM platform? And then how today's manufacturers specifically are utilizing SRM in their work stream. Okay, so let's get you involved a little bit. So we have a giveaway. We want to take care of a meal from DoorDash for a lucky winner. I'm asking you, so whatever platform you're on, if it's YouTube or LinkedIn, there's a couple others. So we have several people, and we appreciate your attendance today. But if you could just go into the chat and answer this question: what department do you come from, or what's your title? And as long as you put that in with hashtag giveaway afterwards, you'll be entered into our contest, and we'll be emailing the winner afterwards. Okay, we're going to cover a lot of problems today, and we're going to cover some solutions. So what's the problem? Supply chain teams are drowning in the spreadsheets and email, or using cobbled together tools that just weren't built specific for them. What do we do about that? Supply chain management, and specifically what we're talking about, SRM software, is about building those collaborative relationships that drive that measurable business value. And that's the key here. It's not just driving more tools to have more tools. It's what do we actually get out of it that's meaningful to us. So this isn't, we'll talk about SRM a little bit. I want to talk about the landscape as a whole and how it portrays into the landscape of greater supply chain software and organizational management software, where supply chain touches every aspect of the business. But it's a fastest growing space, but it's not a new space. It's been around for almost 20 years. So this is recognized by Gartner. There's the chart in Forrester Wave where you can see, the matrix that shows the early adopters and the more mature companies. But this is interesting. The past 24 months, supplier collaboration skyrocketed. And, we're seeing this more and more and more where, especially through COVID, how important supply chain became to everyone because they understood, oh my gosh, there's a microchip in my refrigerator. And what does that mean from, start to finish, how we source parts, how we utilize parts, how we all the way through the supply chain. And if you can see, there's a lot of these types of images that you can go find doing some research, but it's pretty overwhelming, isn't it? The amount of software that tries to touch industry, specific use case, specific role in an organization. And so really it becomes a paradox of choice. What do I do with all this information? How do I find the right solution? And, Sustainment, we've been on a mission to help manufacturers and specifically people that touch the supply chain have a more concise answer to those questions. And let's talk specifically about ERP. Those systems are not built for today's supply chain teams. They're purpose built from the finance up. Just like sales CRM is built with the customer relationship in mind, specific for sales organizations to manage a pipeline of deals, we know that SRM is purpose built for supply chain teams to manage their relationships and everything that they touch in their roles. So go back to another problem. Most companies think that their supply chain management is all just about data and documents, but it's not. And so let's talk about this. How does it happen? How do you quantify the problem? So when you think about all the different things that you're doing today in your role, you're trying to, work in a siloed environment, trying to talk to other people, or even work in other systems that might touch those different areas of the business. Even the most mature enterprise businesses that have software for every single need, we found that they are still managing their supplier list in a spreadsheet. I myself, when I implemented an ERP system, there was no good way to track supplier data. So we built custom SharePoint sites specific to those suppliers to answer questions. The problem is after about 30 days, they became static and you couldn't trust the data anymore. The other thing this brings is, you have that operational friction that runs throughout the organization when no one has that single source of truth that can be trusted because that data is dispersed upon many different systems, or even that tribal knowledge, someone who's worked at an organization over 40 years and they say they know everything in their head, but eventually that person is going to move on. And then what are the new people that come in behind? What are they supposed to do to be able to run their jobs efficiently? That lack of visibility, and then of course control. Who's controlling the data? Where does it come from? And can it be trusted? So supplier relationship management, the SRM, is purpose built for supply chain teams. And let's talk a little bit about what that means. Supplier identification and selection. So we want to make sure we identify those potential suppliers that meet your needs based on quality, price, delivery, and any other criteria that you would have. And then, of course, you have to segment those suppliers, categorizing them, building lists that you can strategically organize them. You can manage them per risk or high value. And then you have different strategies that you want to manage your suppliers in different organizations as well. Performance monitoring. You want to be able to establish metrics and track that supplier performance around key areas like quality, delivery, time, cost, or just relationship development. This is something that's sort of been lost through, we want to track data and we want to track shipments and we want to track price. But what about just the relationships with true partners, with your key suppliers that you get through open communication and ensuring that multiple people on your team know that relationship with the supplier, not just one person. Managing risk. This goes back to the tribal knowledge. It's a real risk in a business if you guys are trusting a single source or a single person who's been there so long, yet doesn't share that data with others in the organization. Managing contracts. Where do you keep all the contracts, negotiate new ones, and manage documentation? And then finally, just technology enablement, making sure that the software platforms that you do use are streamlined for communication, data sharing, and that performance management. So we believe SRM is purpose-built for exactly what we just talked about. Find those suppliers, get your quotes on RFQs, track your POs, analyze your performance, and then you have all the analytics that support all of those functions. So we're going to talk a little bit about limiting beliefs. I'm a big believer on, no pun intended. I know that we walk around every day within our roles, and sometimes we have a limiting belief because we simply don't know what is achievable within technology or new things that are coming out. But also sometimes you're completely hampered by the tools that you already have. So let's talk through some of these. So it feels like I need separate systems for supplier management. And even then, I'm still not sure I have the full picture. So what does SRM do to deliver? So we talked about, the disparate systems and how it could take days or weeks to get information or projects completed. And SRM truly brings all of that communication and collaboration together. I talked through some of those points, but what does that do for you? It streamlines your time. It streamlines the communication within your organization. And it also empowers others to find information on their own from the same place that you live every day. And it saves you time just because you're not having to answer questions for every single area of the business. The easy one is, where's my stuff? So let's talk about one of our clients. So they said, we have revolutionized our vendor management process. Wow, that's a big statement, isn't it? So what happened? So this is an additive manufacturer. They do 3D printing, 3D scanning, machining. And they said they were able to streamline their supplier management by organizing their outsourced work, organizing their certs, their NDAs. They improved their workflows. And what did that do for them? So administrative burdens. Does that sound familiar? It's all, this is where time really comes into play, and how many different people need to be involved or even should be involved, where you could eliminate steps and just help your workflows improve. And then develop those relationships. So how are they doing it? With data. It's so important. Everybody talks about data, but the actual usage of it becomes very difficult with older or antiquated systems. Or if you're just using spreadsheets, they look amazing. There's some pretty powerful spreadsheets out there. The problem is many of those don't harness that data over time and show you the analytics and the history so that you can improve. So what could be a new belief? Wouldn't it be nice to say, I'm confident that every piece of info I need is in one place. I'm able to empower my team to collaborate and work efficiently. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Managing sourcing projects means juggling multiple tools from spreadsheets to email chains just to keep track of my data. How many email threads do you have to go to find information on a PO? What if you worked with a supplier on 30 different open projects? It becomes really burdensome really fast. Here's an example of the Sustainment platform, just to give you an idea of a dashboard where you can get that single source of truth. We want to bring in data from multiple places and have multiple teammates be able to access something like this and empower your team to very quickly find information on their own, be able to trust that it's up to date and true, and just get a quick overview of, in this case, we have kind of the stoplight, the green, yellow, red. How are we doing? Are we winning or losing? And what do we need to do about it to improve? One of our other customers said, we eliminated 3 spreadsheets and have all of our approved vendor data in one place. So in this particular case, and we have some case studies that we can share with you guys if you're interested, but all the users have access to view quotes in real time. How important is that? I can remember going through and finding a quote and talking to a supplier, and they are the ones that told me, hey, that quote has 3 revisions and you're on the first one. Very frustrating when you're trying to find information and even your suppliers are having to tell you that you don't even have your most up-to-date data. Or what about communication? So organized by RFQ, PO, all on the platform, easily found with all of your communication that is sent through email. And then your approved vendor list. Wouldn't it be awesome to be able to easily categorize and put lists together of your suppliers by type of product that you purchase, a raw material, location and geography? So those are the kind of things that SRM can really stand out and help you. So my sourcing projects are all streamlined within a single platform, saves me time, make sure my team always has the data they need. Obviously a much better place to be. So we're going to move on to Q&A because we want to make sure that we answer questions. And if you want to schedule a free supply chain audit, this is something that our team does. Just please scan the code, send us a message. We'd be happy to help you. We also have what we call the SRM excellence model. This talks about, as a supply chain professional, there's 4 steps to this maturity model. How can you move from the very baseline, pen and paper, up to spreadsheets and email, to become an elite professional within supply chain where you're helping others through automation and technology really be efficient in your job? So we hope that you took away SRM delivers. Bottom line, it's not ERP. It's not going to replace ERP. That's not the goal. The goal is to enhance with a purpose-built tool for supply chain personnel, them to do their jobs in an efficient way, share and collaborate with both their suppliers and their teams, become more efficient, and continue to grow. The Sustainment SRM platform, we offer tailored solutions for manufacturers. We'd love to share more about that. And we're available to give you a demo at your leisure. So we really appreciate you joining us. A little bit about our company. We're a public service benefit corporation. Our mission is to enhance and build up the U.S. supply chain. We're really proud of not only the product that we've built for the Department of Defense and the Air Force, the DLA that utilize us, but also commercially. Customers are really enhancing their business with SRM, and we have an amazing team to support it. We're veteran-led. We've got lots of great people who have that experience. And again, with the mission being, we want to strengthen that U.S. supply chain. We understand globally you're going to be buying from suppliers all over, and we support that. But our mission is for the United States here. And we're back to, we're a company that's had really strong investors and are growing very quickly. We're excited to talk about some new tools that we'll have later on in the year, but lots of momentum behind us. So we're going to open it up for Q&A. We've got some other members from the Sustainment team to join us. And thank you for your time in viewing our webinar. All right, Spencer, open to you. Any questions that have come in that we need to tackle?
No questions in the chat right now. I was messaging a little bit with the guys here. Wanted to turn it over to Mitch, Will, Kyle, and it looks like we actually did get a question in the chat that I will pull through here from Cody Thompson. It says, if my team is using the software, what kinds of insight do I have on their interactions with suppliers as a manager?
That's a great question. Mitch, would you hop in and take that?
Yeah, happy to answer that question. So one of the great processes we have is when you're launching RFQs and purchase orders, we create what we call projects. And on each of those projects, we have the ability to add any members of your team, whether it be someone else on a procurement or supply chain team, managers, or even quality or engineering personnel who may have interest in that exact project that's been launched. And once you click into that project, you can actually see all the messages that have gone back and forth with the supplier. And you can actually also send messages to your internal team related to that project. So let's say you've sent an RFQ out, a supplier comes back and says, they need a deviation on a certain tolerance on the part. you can actually go ahead and tag your engineer on that project and ask them to review the question that came in from the supplier, and they can give you approval right there to say, yep, they can get relief on that tolerance. And then you have a record of that relief coming from the engineer on that requirement. So definitely a lot of capabilities. We do, highly recommend with our customers to get the engineers involved, get quality involved, and not just have the supply chain team and the software. And the nice thing is we do know, an engineering group, quality group, they have their own systems that they're in every day. They don't actually have to be logging into Sustainment to message back and forth with you. When you ping them on that project and send the message in the Sustainment platform, your engineer or your quality manager will actually get that message via email and can email you back, and it comes into the platform. So while your supply chain team is managing all their communications within the platform, your internal stakeholders and external stakeholders, being suppliers, they can actually interact over email, which is great because changing everyone's process is a bit difficult.
It's a great question. Thanks, Mitch. I really appreciate that. Yeah, as you guys are on your journey and you're investigating what is SRM, how would it interact with my business, I think it's important to know with Sustainment in particular, we don't have a user license count. We actually encourage everyone who might participate in your projects to be on the platform because we want to ensure that that collaboration internally is happening. And so we just encourage that internal communication and also give them visibility into the different parts or projects that they might need. So it's a great question.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I'm going to roll it back over to the internal team. Will, did you want to share kind of what we discussed earlier?
Yeah, so I got a question here. Supplier and data analytics is a big deal to our organization, but it's difficult for us to draw any conclusions from that data. And Mike, I think you alluded to this earlier, talking about how you can accumulate a ton of data in spreadsheets and in Excel, but you can't necessarily take action on that. So let's get a little bit deeper on how the analytics side of our platform is able to help our customers actually manage their supplier relationships through the insights they get from their data.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. There's two I words here: information and insight. Information is fine. So collecting data, fantastic. But being able to do anything with it, that's where insights come in. And so a true SRM platform will start to accumulate that data over time. So you'll have supplier history, you'll have performance, you're able to build scorecards, you're going to have history on your RFQ and your sourcing projects, you'll have data off your procurement, your POs. All of that data over time will give you visibility into how your suppliers are performing. Is there a certain avenue, area of your business that you need to put a special focus on because there's underperformance, whether it's your team isn't doing a great job communicating to suppliers and you're not getting good information back, or is it that you're giving exactly what you need to your suppliers and they certainly don't have, or in some instances don't have the capabilities that you're hoping that they have and need to maybe look elsewhere. So that's where insight really comes into play. Data analytics is a fastest growing part of our platform, and excited to continue that. We're layering on a lot of tools that actually tell you proactively what to do with that data as it's turned into insights. So good question, Will. Thank you. Kyle, I wanted to ask you, with your experience with ERP and SRM, there's always the question of how do they play together, or what's the biggest differences between ERP and SRM when it comes to supply chain? So could you give us a little bit of information just on how to think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The short answer is everything works together instead of independently in the SRM. And it really allows that data to flow freely to where it's most valuable to you, which kind of ties in with the question that Will just had. So your supplier communications are stored by RFQ and PO in the system. So you can easily reference that conversation in the future. And also it drives efficiency in the present, so you don't have to go sort and sift through a bunch of email, as Mike discussed earlier. as Mike also hit on, when quotes come in, your dashboard updates so you get a real-time view of where your attention is needed. All of that ties into the parts library, and that captures a history of who quoted what for you and who you issued those orders with. And then analytics are generated on those RFQs and POs so you can identify potential risks and get ahead of any problems. And all of that happens without a lot of extra input from you as a user. So it frees you up from all of that manual data entry going back and forth between spreadsheets and your ERP system. It really lets you have a more proactive stance and focus as you deal with your suppliers and your RFQs and POs, and really drive a strategic vision and a path forward. So we've actually had some customers on Sustainment who have reported efficiency gains of 50 to 75% as they're dropping spreadsheets left and right and making more effective use of their time.
No, that's great. I think it's important to note, if you don't have an ERP today and you run your business off of maybe a more simple financial software platform and spreadsheets, that's okay. SRM can really help you. If you do have an ERP platform, whether it's an entry level or enterprise, SRM can still help you. And so, the right thing to do is explore if SRM is the right fit for you, and see if it can actually help you with what we talked about today, making you more efficient, data streamlined through your organization, and collaborate better with your suppliers and your team. And, in some cases, it will do amazing things. And in other cases, it may be you're just not the right time yet. And that's okay too. So we're happy that you joined us today to explore, the landscape of SRM, what it means to a business, and how it might help. And we really appreciate your time and asking and answering some questions. And to my team, thank you guys very much for all the work you've done. So we'll leave it here. And any questions, please email us, contact us in any way. There's lots of ways to do it. And we'll see you next time.